Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel and I am here for Poppy Stamps today, and I wanted to show you how much fun it is to create your own stamped background. And the best part of creating your own stamped background is that you can then create some elements like die cuts, images, and even tags using some ink blending techniques using the same inks so that everything color coordinates perfectly together. And you can see that I am going to create an Easter card today, so I'm using lots of pretty Distress Oxide inks in really pretty Easter pastel colors. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at some of the products that I used to create this card. I have some white cardstock. It's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I have the Poppy Stamps Easter Chicks stamp set, and then I have a bunch of Distress Oxide inks, and I'll link all the colors that I used down below. But I'm going to start here with Worn Lipstick. There are 3 individual eggs, Easter eggs, in the Easter Chicks stamp set, and each of them are decorated differently. One has polka dots, one has wavy lines, one has a different pattern, and so each time I change colors, I'm going to change the design of the egg. And I'm going to use my Misty in case I need to double stamp or if I don't get a perfect stamped image. I'm cleaning off the stamp each time with a chamois and a dry cloth so that I can reposition the stamp and figure out where I want it before I actually stamp it down. So I'm going to do an entire rainbow of colors, Roy G. Biv, and I'm going to just stamp them haphazardly around the panel to create my own background image, basically creating my own pattern paper here. And the great thing about this is that I can then use these same colors to ink blend the other elements that I'm going to put on the card so that everything will perfectly coordinate. You can see I'm stamping about 4 times per color, and that will give me a nice mixture of both the patterns of the eggs and also the colors of inks. And I did want to make sure that each color was represented equally. When I got to the shaded lilac, I didn't really have room for eggs, so I grabbed a small star stamp from that same stamp set. It's from the Easter Chicks stamp set as well, and just filled in these empty spaces with some of the shaded lilac color, and I did use just a small acrylic block for that so that I could just get in there quickly and make sure that I got all these stars stamped down. The next thing I did was die cut a tag with the double stitched tag dies from Poppy Stamps, and I'm going to be stamping the sentiment on this tag with some VersaFine ink, which is a pigment ink. It'll take some time to dry, and so I will heat emboss this with some clear embossing powder. I put my anti-static down first, then stamped with the VersaFine, and now I'm putting my clear embossing powder on top, and then I'm going to use my heat tool to heat set this. And you can see that once the embossing powder is melted, the image comes in nice and clear and black. You're going to make sure that all of the embossing powder is melted before you move on to the next step. It's also really important to make sure this tag is cool. You want to make sure the stamping and the embossing powder is very cool before you begin with this. Now I'm going to take some of that Distress Oxide ink in the shaded lilac that I used to stamp the stars in the background, and I'm going to use an ink blending tool to blend the color and have it be darkest on the bottom and lightest at the top. And you can see that I'm using a piece of paper to hold that tag down so I don't get any fingerprints on it. Next, I take a dry cloth and just wipe the ink off the sentiment, and you can see that that embossed sentiment acts as a resist. I'm also going to stamp and heat emboss a couple of images from the Easter Chicks stamp set. I have 2 of the eggs and I have 2 of the chicks. I only end up using 1 chick, but I'll save the other one for another project. You can see I put the chicks together down at the bottom because I'm going to use the same color of ink on those, whereas the eggs at the top are separated because I'm going to use different colors. This is how I organize my ink blending foams. You can see I have the inks swatched out out on this page, and then behind it in the coordinating spots, I have those blending foams. So I'm going to take the same colors that I inked our background with, the worn lipstick and the brand new squeezed lemonade, and then also some cracked pistachio. And I'm going to ink blend over these stamped and heat embossed images. This is a really easy way to color in some die cuts, and you can even add 2 different colors. So I grabbed the carved pumpkin to add a little orange to their bellies, and then went back to the squeezed lemonade to blend it all out. And don't forget to use that dry cloth to wipe away the ink from the stamped image so it shines through really clear. Next, I'm going to use the worn lipstick on one of the eggs. Again, I have the darkest and most amount of ink at the bottom, kind of gives it a little bit of shading and dimension. And then I'm going to use the cracked pistachio on that last egg. I'm going to grab the coordinating dies that you can get with the Easter Chicks stamp set, and I'm going to line them up and then tape them down with some Thermoweb purple tape. This will keep them in place temporarily so that I can run them through my die cut machine and get a nice clean cut. So now I have everything to put our card together. I have that ink blended tag, my little ink blended die cuts, and I have our stamped background, and then a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card base. I'm going to use some foam tape to pop up that tag. I really love the way the tag coordinates with the stars, and then the images coordinate with the other eggs in the background. So I'm going to figure out exactly how I'm going to lay these little eggs down. I decided that I'm going to have one flat to the tag using some tape runner, and then the other one I'm going to pop up with some foam tape. The last thing to do is adhere the card panel down to the card base, just using some tape runner there, and that pretty much completes the card. You can see in the final image that I did add a few gems and pearls, but the star of this show really is creating your own stamped background and then using ink blending to create some focal images like die cuts and tags that are ink blended. If you're interested in the products that I used today, they'll all be linked down below. You can subscribe to my channel to see my new videos as they come out. Check out my blog, and a few videos will be linked here that you might be interested in. I want to thank you so much for stopping by today. Have a wonderful day.